Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon, let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. How are you guys doing today?
I'm good, Jenny. If you look over my left shoulder, your right shoulder, you see a little something I got in the background, Skip. You can't see it, but it look real nice, doesn't it, Jenny? Doesn't it look real nice, Jenny?
I have no idea what you're talking about. All I'm concerned about, if we're talking about Super Bowls, is I might advise Dak Prescott right now to hurry up and sign, or a certain Super Bowl train might leave the Dallas station with Andy Dalton as the driver.
And Dak says, good luck with that. It never left in Cincinnati with him aboard.
Skip, I'll help you out a little bit. Shannon has updated his resume in terms of that backdrop, and I'm sure he will tell you more about it later on in the show. But Dak Prescott is where we start Undisputed today, because it's already been reported that Dak Prescott wants a 4-year deal, while the Cowboys want to lock him up for 5. Chris Sims is now reporting that if Dak were to sign for 5 years, he wants to get paid $45 million for that 5th season. $45 million. Shannon, should Jerry Jones give him what he wants?
Skip, Jerry has no one to blame. The Cowboys have no one to blame for this predicament except the Cowboys, because they let Dak get to the end of his contract. Not only to the end, I'm talking about to the punctuation, the end. If you look at it and everybody's like, well, look at Carson Wentz, look at Jared Goff. Remember now, they signed going into their 4th year, and they had the 5th year option. They let Dak get to the complete end of his contract. So, Skip, he does not have a 5th year option. And everybody realizes is that when you do a contract extension, you give up something because you gain long-term security. What did Dak have? What did Dak give up? They made Dak play that contract out. They made Dak run the risk of injury. And so Dak says, I'm unwilling to give you a deal that Carson Wentz and Jared Goff gave his teams, because they came to them with years left on their contract. You made me play this out. Skip, the cap has gone up roughly about $10 million every year. This year, it was $198.2. So basically, in 5 years from now, you're looking at $250 million for the cap. Now, 5 years ago, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL was Aaron Rodgers at $22 million. Today, currently, it's Russell Wilson at $35 million. So if you take, say, Russell Wilson's contract right now, Skip, and you say it's $35 million, in 5 years, that's going to be $48 million. So Dak is saying, if you want that 5th year, you're going to have to make it you're going to have to make it right for me. See, Jerry wants to control it. Jerry wants, okay, let me pay you this, which is really less than market value. Let me give you guaranteed, which is less than what a free agent should get. And let me give you less fully guaranteed. Skip, you remember, 3 years ago, First Cousins got $84 million fully guaranteed. Well, he did 2 years of that deal. They went back, redid it. So now when it's all said and done, he's about to have 5 years fully guaranteed money. Jerry wants Dak, after going through what he went through, to give him a deal comparable to what Goff and Wentz gave their teams when he made him play this out, Skip. If I'm Dak, Dak says, look, if you want the 5th year, this is what it's going to cost you. If you don't want to do the 5th year, which is totally your option, do the 4-year deal. But Dak is not going to make any concessions, Skip. And I've been reading Twitter and reading these inbox. Well, they should let Dak test the free agent market. That's a novel way to think right now, considering everybody's had their draft, everybody's set their roster. If you really wanted to know what Dak was worth, you should not have put the tag on him. Let him become an unrestricted free agent. Then and only then, you could have saw what Dak's worth was, and then you could have either matched it or you could have let it go. But you didn't do that. And so now you feel you backed him in a corner because you have Andy Dalton and there's nowhere else for him to go. But Dak, in order to see this thing through, he's going to have to stand pat.
So did you just suggest that Dak Prescott is better than Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson?
Hold on. We're talking about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, if you look at where Dak Prescott is now, and I'm not saying he's better than Aaron Rodgers, but I'm saying if you look at 5 years ago what he was doing as opposed to what Russell's doing, Skip, I believe, and he's gotten better. You see, you talked to me yesterday, Shannon, say you can't call him Dink and Dak. Well, the reason why Jerry is holding pat to where he's offering is because he still looks at Dak as that first and second year guy when he was 23rd, 25th, and all those other categories. Now he's a proven passer, and Jerry does not want to amend the money that he's making based on what he's become, not what he was.
Okay, I have so much to say that I don't know where to start, but I better start from the start. Let's go back to the Chris Sims report, because it is the very first reporting, quote unquote, of any kind we've had on what Dak and his new agent, Todd France, are asking for. This is the first little sliver of reporting. And Chris Sims is not an investigative reporter. I'm sure he has his sources. I don't know if those sources are in Jerry's camp or in Dak's camp. But this is the first time in a year and maybe 3 months that this has been going on that we even had a tiny, tiny bit of some kind of reporting about what Dak is asking for. You keep saying, they made him, they forced him, they pushed him. Baloney! It's how much he's asking for. Jerry Jones' MO, his track record, his history shows you he routinely overpays his stars. Is Dak a big... No, he has earned his spurs, but he is not proven to be a top 10 quarterback yet. I think he has a good chance to prove that, but not yet. But now we hear from Chris Sims that if there's a fifth year involved, that Dak Prescott wants, it wasn't just 45, it's north of 45. 46, 47, I don't know, 48. And that brings into question the most key point of all, Shannon Sharpe. How much are they asking for in the first 4 years? If they want 4 versus Jerry wants 5, what do you think the ask is? Is it at least $40 million a year for the first 4 years? You better believe it is. I've told you that from the start. The money we're talking about here is the kind of money that Patrick Mahomes and his agent, Lee Steinberg, haven't even thought of asking the Chiefs for yet. I believe that on a daily basis, they're reading these updates on Dak. They're reading Chris Sims saying north of 45 in the fifth year. And they're thinking, my God, the bar is going to get set to the moon, maybe to the sun, because Dak Prescott has not proven to be Patrick Mahomes, obviously. So if Dak Prescott gets a deal that goes 40, 40, 41, 42, 48, whatever it is, over a 5-year stretch, Patrick Mahomes is going to say, we just hit the lottery. I've proven so much more. I actually got to and won a Super Bowl. Dak Prescott is 1 and 2 in the postseason. I'm going to remind everybody that just last August, Dak Prescott didn't even make the NFL's top 100 players voted on by the players. And guess what my partner Shannon Sharpe said the next day after that broke? He said, hooray for those players. He's not a top 100 player. Aha. So he's not top 100. Wait. His team went 8-8. He had some really bad games down the stretch, especially at New England and at Philadelphia. He did not make the Pro Bowl. And all of a sudden, you're talking about 40s and all the way up to maybe 48 million. It's out of bounds. It's outrageous. It's out of line. It's what is holding up this deal. It's just completely unrealistic for a quarterback I love. But I can't say that he should be paid far more than Patrick Mahomes is even thinking of asking for. Go ahead.
Skip, we don't know what Patrick Mahomes is thinking about, but Skip, you have to understand, you have to include the rate of inflation. Now, Jerry Jones' value of the franchise is going up. The salary cap is going up. In other words, he wants to pay Dak Prescott 35. Skip Bayless, you know good and well, in 5 years, because there are 8 quarterbacks that average $30 million currently. So in 5 years from now, there will be 5 quarterbacks, 6 quarterbacks that average $40 million in salary. You know that. Dak says, I'm including inflation into my contract. You, Skip, the 5th year, Jerry does not have to do the 5th year. If that's such an astronomical number, don't do it. Let's keep the 4 years on the table. And I'm getting more than what Wentz and Goff got for the simple fact they had a 5th year option. You gave them security when they were already under contract. You made me play the contract out, and I had no security. See, if I got hurt, I'm out of luck. Now you want me to give you a discount. I cannot do that, Jerry, in good conscience, because you showed me no favor.
Okay. The problem I'm having with everything you're saying, you keep putting the blame all on Jerry. According to the reports, we do have this from many sources. The deal on the table right now from Jerry to Dak is in the $36 million range for 5 years, an average of, with around $110 million guaranteed. To me, and again, I get your projections, I get your inflation, but to me, for what Dak has accomplished, and even given what I think he could accomplish, that's a very fair deal. Even that overthecap.com, when it does its projections, that's where it has Dak slotted in. That's a very fair offer at this point in time. I get your projections, but it's hard for me to swallow your premise here because you don't even like him. You can't pay somebody top of the line money when you don't even think he's above average. You gave him F's many times last year. I'm sorry, I don't trust what you're saying because you don't like my team and you want me to lose and you want my cap wrecked and you want dissension in my locker room. So I get where you're coming from, but I don't get where you're going because I disagree. The offer is very fair. Dak makes God knows how much money off the field with at least a dozen national TV endorsement contracts, advertisements that he does for various companies that net him a whole bunch more money that most quarterbacks in this league do not command. I'm sorry, it's time for him to compromise.
Well, see, this is what I don't get, Skip. Now, when it comes to Dak Prescott, he needs to be a top 5. There's so many players, so many quarterbacks. I forget the players. I'm just going to take quarterbacks that have gotten paid over the years that were not top 5. Matthew Stafford wasn't a top 5 quarterback. He got paid. All these guys get paid. Now you want to hold Dak to the standard. Well, Dak, you're not top 5. Tony Romo got paid. Tony Romo has never been a top 5 quarterback. Tony Romo has, and look at what he did. We keep talking about, well, Dak is not this, Dak is not that. Nobody has ever thought of Tony Romo as a top 5 quarterback. And Jerry Jones made him the highest paid without blinking an eye. And all I'm saying is, Skip, is you know how this works, Skip. Go ahead.
Okay, but it's like my mother used to tell me when I was like 5 years old. I'd say, everybody in the block is doing it. And she'd say, yeah, if their mothers told them to run and jump off the cliff, should I tell you to run and jump off the cliff like everybody else is? No. The Rams are dying right now because they overpaid Jared Goff. He's gotten exposed. He's not worthy of the deal that they gave him. I don't think Carson Wentz is going to be able to live up the deal he was given. This league makes huge mistakes right and left on quarterbacks. And Jerry's saying, I'm not going to jump off the same cliff that the Rams and the Eagles jumped off of.
Well, how about I put it to you like this? Let's just say for the argument, Skip Bayless and Rick Bayless, and they go into school. Skip Bayless is getting A's. Rick Bayless is getting B's and C's. But your mom pulls out her purse, gives Rick $10, and gives Skip $5. You go like, what the hell, mama? That's what's happening, Skip Bayless. Jerry Jones reached into his pocket, made Tony Romo the highest paid player, and Dak Prescott said, well, what the hell, Jerry? Look at my numbers comparable in the first 4 years. You see what happened, Skip, is when Dak came out, he was a fourth-round pick. Okay, he got the money that he got. Okay, that's what it is. And everybody kept saying, even Skip, woo, look at the money that they're paying Dak Prescott, he's vastly underpaid. Where was Jerry Jones when he was vastly underpaid? Said, we need to make this right. We need to amend this contract because Dak has clearly outperformed this contract. Where was Jerry then? Now, all of a sudden, it's time for him to hit that jackpot. Sweepstakes. Oh, well, you're not a top 5 quarterback. You didn't win these games. Very things that I said last year, when I said about that in New Orleans, when I said that about these other teams which he was losing, you gave him A's. You beat me up and down. Now it's time for him to get paid. You want to throw when he didn't play well against New England. He didn't play well against Philly. He had a throw he could have made in New Orleans. You come up with all these excuses that you never made during the season when he was on that bull jive contract. Now it's time for him to get paid. You come up with Shannon. Remember, you gave him an F. Yeah, I said that. But I also said that he plays a premium position. And when you play premium positions, you don't need to be Tom Brady in order to get paid. You don't need to be Joe Montana. Skip, you understand that they paid that position premium money. And he says, look at what Ryan Tannehill has had 8 good games. And he got $91 million guaranteed. I'm $30, $40, $50 million better than Ryan Tannehill, and I need to be compensated accordingly.
By the way, just quick aside, in 4 years of high school, I made only 1 B, and that was in driver's ed because nobody got an A in driver's ed.
I knew it.
And my parents never gave me a penny. They never gave me a penny because they didn't even know what I was doing in high school because they did not care. So just for the record, there was no incentive given to me to make all those A's in high school. And I am a very good driver. And any day you want to race on Avenue of the Stars before the show, I will meet you there and we will have a showdown. Fast and furious showdown. Okay, back to Dak Prescott. Here's Jerry's problem. Almost every day that we get up to do this show, there's another breaking story about some new bizarre accolade that Dak is getting this offseason. I don't get it, Shannon, but all of a sudden, one day I have to hear that Dak's MVP odds have risen as high as 3rd at Caesars, at their sports book, Caesars Palace. And the next day, I have to hear that Roto World on the fantasy has now upped him to a projection of 3rd best quarterback in fantasy. What? 3rd best quarterback? Yep. And then we have to hear that Dak Prescott yesterday on some next-gen stats that NFL.com put out ranked last year somehow, some way, as the #1 deep ball thrower in all of pro football. And I'm saying, Dak? Really? I don't remember that. I don't really have a feel for that because I remember too many key throws that he missed. He missed Tavon Austin wide open at Philly on a throw that could have set up a 2-point conversion try to tie the game at 17 late in the game. He missed too many of those key, deeper throws last year. But I can't stop this runaway train of accolades, as bizarre as they might be, and yet I'm sure while Dak is bringing them to the negotiating table, Jerry, I got top 5 projections next year. You gotta pay me what we're asking for. And I'm saying the reason you're projected top 5 is not all because of you, Dak Prescott. It's because of your weapons. It's mostly because C.D. Lamb fell out of the heavens into their lap at number 17 in the first round of the draft when they had him ranked 6th on their draft board overall. It changed. I told you the next day, life just changed. Well, Dak's life just changed because now all the predictions, the projections for next year, Dak could have top 5. He could have top 1 numbers. Wait a second. It's because of his weaponry. There's still that guy 21 behind him named Ezekiel Elliott. And if you put CD with Amari and Gallup, You've got nuclear firepower. You still have a top 5 offensive line. Dak should be thanking his lucky Dallas Cowboys stars that he is in such a primo position. The proverbial catbird seat is right now in Dallas, Texas, and he should be thankful. He should say, wow, I could make $36 million a year with 110 guaranteed. Oh, thank you. Where do I sign, Jerry? There should be some compromise out of being thankful for what position you're in next year. You do have a shot to win the NFC and get to the Super Bowl. Your team is that talented. There have been that many upgrades on the defensive side. Bill Barnwell on ESPN.com just released his top, 10 of the offseason, who had the best off seasons. While Tampa was number 1, we'll talk about that later, Dallas was 5th. So after a slow start to the offseason, Dak Prescott, your GM, Jerry Jones, got ranked with the 5th best offseason. You should embrace that. You should embrace the offer on the table. You should compromise just a little bit. You should come off those unrealistic out-of-bounds numbers of up into the 40s and say, okay, I'm good. I've got my endorsements, my national TV commercials. I've got weapons all around me. I've got a chance to be great. I got a new coach in Mike McCarthy, who coached Joe Montana and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. I am good to go. Dak, you got to wake up. You got to calm down, and you got to say, let's go ahead and settle this right in that range that Jerry's offered, which is eminently fair, and it should conclude this deal sooner than later.
Dak said, yeah, I'd have been willing to compromise had you come to me in year 2 or 3, but you're not finna come to me at the end of year 4 when I've had to swim shark-infested water. No, there's no compromise now. He said, Skip, you're right. Jerry does have me a plethora of weapons. Skip, the military. We got the greatest military in the world, and they carry all sorts of weapons. From AKs to MR6 to AR-15 to M16. They got a lot of stuff, but there's something that will go out to NORAD that might become at a level 4, level 5, and then you can flip a button. He says, I got nuclear capabilities. All that other stuff that you got, you talk about C.D. Lamb and Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper and Zeke Elliott. I'm the nuclear weapon here. I'm the quarterback. Skip Bayless has told me for over 40 years that the most important, the highest profile position in all the world is not just quarterback, it's the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. What is that worth to you, Skip Bayless? Because see, what you're trying, you had Dak. Dak is already compromised. A 4th-round pick, never making more than $2 million in salary while winning all of those games. By going to the Pro Bowl, by winning Rookie of the Year. Where was the compensation for that? Okay, you said you can't compensate a guy for what he's done. So in other words, Jerry Jones, really did. Skip, you and I can go back and forth, and it's great fodder for us. But at the end of the day, I'm going to break it down crystal and abundantly clear for everyone. Jerry Jones does not believe in Dak Prescott. I can't make it any clearer than that. It's as simple as that. Now, you can say he's offered him $35 million. You can say he's doing this and yada, yada, yada. And all that sounds good. But when they believe in a guy, they don't blink an eye. They don't release what the quarterback is asking for. They don't ask the quarterback that he needs to compromise to show team or he's uninterested in about winning because he's being selfish. That's not what teams do when they believe in their guy. Jerry Jones does not believe in Dak Prescott. I can't make it any clearer than that.
Wait a second. He believes in him so much that the deal on the table right now would make Dak Prescott the top paid player in the entire National Football League. And not only does Jerry believe in him, but to your point, you don't believe in him. You don't even think he's worth $35 million. And we're losing track of just how much 35 is because we start talking about 45 to 48 million. It's becoming funny, baloney, monopoly money. And Shannon, in the end, Jerry does want him to be the starting quarterback. He's just saying, wait a second, you're not Tom Brady. Not yet.
I actually better right now. But anyway, Skip Bayless, you like Monopoly. You love to mention Monopoly. Well, right now, Dak Prescott owns Park Ave and Boardwalk. Boom!
No mercy.
While Tom Brady has the greatest Super Bowl comeback in NFL history, no denying that, it's Patrick Mahomes who has the league's best QBR when trailing over the last 2 seasons. Shannon, who is more clutch, Mahomes or Brady?
Patrick Mahomes. I don't even know why this is a discussion or why this is a debate. You see, the thing is, Jenny, we can't properly critique Tom Brady because we got to go back to, you remember what he did in 2006? You remember what he did in 2012? But I thought sports was, what have you done for me lately? And all I know is a guy that was behind by 10 points in all 3 of his playoff games. And he came back to win all those playoff games by double-digit points. He was behind by a lot more games. So if you look at what he's done over the last year, and that's what we're talking about. We're not going back 3 years. We're not going back 4 years. Because Skip loved to live in the past. But we're moving forward, baby. We got the best man in football. We got the best guy in football, Skip Bayless. Patrick Mahomes, boy. Deal with it. Skip, come on, stop this. I mean, what are we talking about? He's the best player in football. Hands down. I don't think you'll get any debate from anybody. He's the best player in football. He just orchestrated the greatest 3-game stretch as far as come from behind and winning the Super Bowl. He's an MVP. He's a Super Bowl MVP. He is give me a quarterback. Okay, Shannon, I don't care the situation. 2020, Shannon, you get 1 quarterback. I got Patrick Mahomes. You get the field.
Mr. Sharpe, I realize that you live way up the hill from me in your palatial estate, way up there in Bel Air. And I realize that up in Bel Air, that you people up there pay homeowners dues to God so that lightning can't strike up in Bel Air. There's no lightning in Bel Air. I live down here in my humble abode in the flats. Lightning can strike. And I'm afraid, even though the sun is coming up right now and it's actually out, I'm afraid I'm going to get struck by lightning even dealing with this topic. It's blasphemous. It is heresy. It is Asa 9, Asa 10, Asa 11, and Asa 12 in honor of the great Tom Brady, who wears number 12. Patrick Mahomes is not even in the same universe when it comes to fourth quarter clutch that Tom Brady owns. And shall we just go back to the most recent Super Bowl game? Let's see what happened late in the third quarter of the last Super Bowl. Yeah, how about it?
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes on 3rd and 6 threw an interception to the 49ers.
Yes.
And then he turned right around later in the fourth quarter, and on 3rd and 9, he threw another interception right to the 49ers. There's 2 second half, late game interceptions from Patrick Mahomes. And he got away with a 3rd and 15 at his 35 with 7:13 left in the game. He got away with throwing a punt to Tyreek Hill, a punt in which he basically just closed his eyes against a pass rusher and just flung it up in the air. And Tyreek had to come back for the ball, and he called a fair catch like he was fielding a punt. He got away with a ball that was at least 50-50. It was probably more 60-40 to be intercepted. It was a bad idea, bad throw. It was the highest risk, and he got away with it, and it became the play of the game, a 44-yard gain that helped put them in position to beat a Jimmy Garoppolo who fell completely apart in the fourth quarter and went 3 for 11 for a grand total of 36 yards with an interception in the fourth quarter. If Jimmy G plays anywhere remotely the way you told me he could play, especially under pressure in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl, we're not having this conversation because Patrick Mahomes would have lost. Now, let me address the ancient history that is Tom Brady. I'm sorry, I don't think 2014 is that long ago. 6 years ago, is that ancient NFL? No. What happened in the 2014 Super Bowl? It was actually in early 2015. Well, all Tom Brady did in the fourth quarter of that game was throw for 124 yards on 13 of 15 completions and come back from 24-14 down to beat the Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks. And then in 2016, that's not ancient history. That's just barely 4 years ago. Actually, early 2017. What happened, Shannon Sharpe? 246 yards passing in the fourth quarter and overtime from Tom Brady as they came back from 28-3 down. And how about 2017? Not exactly ancient history. What happened in the AFC Championship game? They're down 20-10, or the Patriots at home in the AFC Championship game to Saxonville. And Brady throws for 138 in the fourth quarter with 12 stitches at the base of his thumb in his throwing hand. And then he goes on to the Super Bowl, and all he did was throw for 505, which is still the all-time playoff record. And then how about 2018? How about what he did to Patrick Mahomes in 2018, or I'm sorry, still back in 2017, in that regular season Sunday night game that they played? He threw in the fourth quarter for 168 yards as they came from behind to beat Patrick Mahomes head-to-head. And then, obviously, we've got the AFC Championship game in 2018 at Patrick Mahomes, in which, that's not exactly ancient history, Tom Brady, all he did is go 3rd and 10 conversion, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10. 3 straight 3rd and 10 conversions in overtime. It's not ancient history. It happened. And in that Super Bowl, it's 3-3 in the middle of the fourth quarter, and he goes 4 for 4 on yet another game-winning drive.
Skip, that's not a
come from behind in the fourth quarter. Okay, so no, Shannon Sharpe, that makes 6 Super Bowls with game-winning drives. Well, it's tied.
See, there you go. See, you go way back. 2000, now you're going back to 01, you're going back to 03, 04, you're going back. No, Skip. Okay. They said 2018. 2018, when Patrick Mahomes became a starter. Tom Brady is a starter. He has a higher QBR when coming from behind than Tom Brady. And what happened last year, Skip Bayless, when Mahomes went to New England and beat Tom Brady in his building? All you want to talk about, see, what you do is that when Tom Brady loses, you blame Coach Belichick. When he wins, you give nobody else any credit except Tom Brady. No, give me my homeboy. You can keep Brady.
All I saw late last year, final regular season game of 2019, I saw Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. do what he always does in fourth quarters. Another come from behind, what should have been game-winning drive, 60 yards in 8 plays, climaxed by a 20-yard touchdown pass to James White that put the New England Patriots up 24-20 on the Dolphins and put them in position to secure the 2 seed over Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who then would have been the 3 seed. And what happened? That's with 3 minutes left. Belichick's defense gave up an 13-play, 75-yard drive. Wait, to Fitzmagic? To Ryan Fitzpatrick? It ate the last 3 minutes of the clock, climaxed with a 5-yard touchdown pass to Gesicki that beat the Patriots 27-24. Tom Brady was all-time clutch again to pull off the 2 seed when he had the worst collection of receivers in the league last year, including his go-to target, Julian Edelman, who led the league in drop passes. He pulled that off. They should have been the 2 seed. All-time clutch again, and the body of work even recently is 10 times beyond Patrick Mahomes.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Because when was the last time Tom Brady was an MVP? When was the last time he was a Super Bowl MVP? Because my guy was an MVP just 2 years ago. He was Super Bowl MVP last year. I love how you always bring up Miami, but you fail to mention anything about the Titans. Because you do realize Tom Brady, the great, the mythical Tom Brady, scored 13 points. His defense held a team. And what did Tom Brady do, Skip? How many points did Tom Brady? I want you to tell the people at home, because you and I was watching this game. I was up there. It was so nice and pleasant up in my palatial estate up here. And I was watching the game. I said, I know Tom Brady's going to score more than 14. I know Tom Brady's going to do that. I said, I know Tom Brady's going to score more points than that. Huh? His defense gave up 14 points to the Tennessee Titans. Tom Brady could only score 13 and 0 in the second half. Skip, where was the come from behind? If your defense hold a team to 14, shut somebody in the second half. If you Tom Brady, you got to win that one. You got to win that one, Skip. What happened? You see, what happens is every time he comes from behind, you don't give the defense. He came from back from 28-3. But what did his defense give up from that point on? 0. You see what happens when his defense couldn't hold? Tom Brady played maybe the greatest game ever, 505 yards. But his defense couldn't hold. He couldn't win. You say, well, he was down 24-14. Guess what happened, Skip Bayless? His defense holds. Tom Brady comes from behind. So what you try and do, which I will not allow you to do, is that give Tom Brady all the credit. Patrick Mahomes, boy, is where it's at right now, Skip Bayless. I know, Skip, we hate to see our legends go. We hate to see our heroes fall by the wayside. But this is the movie right here, Skip, where he gonna get, Skip, normally the good guys don't get killed in the end. But this one right here, my homeboy gonna have to did away with it. He gone. My homeboy is now.
Yep. And again, I bring it up a second time in this show. Bill Barnwell, the NFL expert, analysis obviously on ESPN.com, just ranked Tampa Bay as having the best offseason in all the NFL, in largest part because they landed Tom Brady. You say he's washed up. You say he's in decline. And now everybody is saying Tampa had the best offseason, right? Well, how could you have the best offseason if you took a flyer and gave $25 million for the next 2 years to a washed-up quarterback? How could that be?
Let me ask you a question. How much would Tampa have given to Patrick Mahomes? Okay, you got a choice, Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. How much they give Pat Mahomes, boy?
Hey, I'll take Brady over Mahomes any day or night, right here, right now. And
I guarantee you.
And by the way, last year, everybody ranked Kansas City's receivers and their weapons #1 in the NFL. We're going to do this topic a little later. They're now ranked #2 to Tom Brady's receivers, so we'll get into that later. But still, Mahomes was ranked #1 most of the last year with his weaponry. The Patriots were dead last, 32nd in the league. Everybody agreed that their receiving core, including their tight ends, were the worst in football. That's called sabotage by Bill Belichick. That's called, how did Tom Brady get them in position to be the 2 seed with nobody while Patrick Mahomes had everybody? Tyreek and Kelsey, and we can go on and on
Sammy
and on.
Watkins. Yeah. Hold on, Skip.
Yeah,
you do realize that a lot of that roster Alex Smith had, and he never was the MVP. He never threw 50 touchdowns. He never got them to a Super Bowl with Tyreek, with Travis Kelsey, with that offensive line, with a lot of those receivers. What happened? Skip, you and I both know you can have weapons, but nobody can fire that gun like my homeboy, like Patrick Mahomes, boy. You know that, Skip. The thing what you try to do, Skip, this was based on the last 2 years. That's all they said. And somehow you went 2014, you went 2007, you went 2016.
It's not Patrick that long ago. I didn't go 2007.
Skip, it was 2018 since Patrick Mahomes has become a starter. That's what they did. And somehow you went 2014, you went 2016, you went AFC Championship game in again. Come on, Skip.
No. Okay, come on, Shannon. I'm talking about postseason. I'll take Brady's postseason starting 2018 and 2019 over Patrick Mahomes. You're talking about regular season. I can't even remember those games. I don't really care about those games. I care about when the money is on the table. I'll take the GOAT in those situations. And he's still the GOAT, and he's still going GOAT-ish strong at 43.
And when the money was on the table last year in the playoffs, your guy spit the bit. My guy raked the money in. When all the money, because just what you said, the playoffs, everybody shoved all their money in, and my homeboy raked it all in. Yeah. Sweepstakes.
Yeah. My guy ran into the buzzsaw that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens ran into. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, we all agreed he was the MVP and they had the best team, and they got buzzsawed at home by Tennessee. At home. I'm sorry, it was a hot team, and Brady ran into the hottest team.
But you got the GOAT. You got the GOAT. Remember, when I tell you LeBron ran into the Warriors or LeBron ran into the Spurs, you said he's the GOAT. He has to win those games. You got the GOAT. He has to win those games. So which is it? GOATs now need teammates, need help, or they don't? I just need to know, which is it? Do GOATs need help? A simple yes or a simple no. Jenny, can I judge, Your Honor, can I treat this witness as a hostile witness?
No. Yeah, I'm very hostile right now because nobody ever accused LeBron James of having the worst supporting cast in basketball in 2013 and 2014. He should have lost in 2013 to the Spurs. He did lose in 2014, and he had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and lots of supporting cast help.
But what about he got to the finals and he got lose Kyrie in overtime, no Kevin Love, and then he goes back and then he doesn't have Kyrie. And he took that team and what was that? The 2018 team, 2017 team that he took. Come on, Skip.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is we're not trying to diminish Tom Brady. Tom Brady is historically a pantheon great.
Yes, you are.
But currently, it's Pat Mahomes. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady scored 13 points in a playoff game. 0 in the second half.
And Patrick Mahomes threw 2 late interceptions in a Super Bowl. And you're saying he's clutch? I saw unclutch in the Super Bowl.
Your guy threw it, Skip. Your guy's first pass in his last Super Bowl was a pick. Did you forget that? He threw an 86-yard pick, 6 touchdowns against the Falcons. Did you forget that?
You guys could go all day about this one. We could continue, and we just don't have all day.
No mercy.
Cowboys defensive end Aldon Smith has been conditionally reinstated by the NFL after not playing since 2015. This will allow Smith to participate in the Cowboys' virtual offseason program that begins next week. And according to Fox Bet, the Cowboys' win total is projected at 9.5. So, Shannon, in your opinion, how much impact will Smith have on the Cowboys?
Skip, having played this game, and I like to think I played at a high level. I consider myself one of the best conditioned athletes when I played the game of football. It's just hard for me to believe that this guy will play a significant role after being away from the game for 4 or 5 years. Skip, it's just hard for me to believe his last double-digit sack season was 2012. Skip, that was 8 years ago. Let that sink in for just a second. That was 8 years ago. And we're asking a guy to basically come out of retirement, exile, and to contribute. Now, I believe what they're hoping for, Skip, is they can get 5.5 sacks from him, 5.5 sacks from Randy Gregory. That's 10 sacks. That can somewhat replace the production of what they lost in Robert Quinn, who signed that massive deal with the Chicago Bears. So we understand that. But for him to come back and expect him to be the impact player that he was when he left, Skip, I just don't see that happening. Skip, look, and I get Jay and Glaze worked with us. Jay Glazer, he worked with us, and so I have the utmost respect for him. But Skip, and he says that this young man is in great shape. But hell, so is everybody else that's working out right now. They're in great shape. But they haven't taken 4.5, 5 years off in order to get back and play a game. So for me, Skip, it's hard for me to see, and I'm very skeptical. I wish him the best. Now, I don't want people like, well, you just say, no. I want him to come back, hopefully he has his life in order, and he can contribute to the Cowboys. But I'm just skeptical of someone that can be away from the game for this amount of time, having played this game, knows what it takes to play this game at a very high level, for him to miss that kind of time and be able to come back and be a major contributor. Skip, I'm skeptical. So I'm thinking that they're thinking if they can get 10, 11 sacks combined from Gregory and Aldon Smith, that's a win from them, Skip. But the production that people are like, oh, man, he's in this kind of shape and he's going to give you double. No, I don't see that. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I just don't see it, Skip.
Okay, on this one, I respect your skepticism. You're on the right side of being skeptical. You're on the correct side of this because he hasn't played for 5 years, and obviously it's against long odds that he would come back and be at all productive. I've told you from the start, I have a good feeling about this one. I believe this could be a, so to speak, fairy tale story and comeback. Aldon Smith is only 30 years of age. Obviously, in his first 2 years, to your point, long time ago, but his first 2 years in this league, he piled up sacks at a pace nobody ever has. So we know he has that in him, or at least he used to. The man who coached him in those days, Jim Tomsula, is now with Dallas. And I'm sure he was a driving force in saying, let's take an incentive-based shot here. And his contract is just almost all incentive-based. It's almost like from month to month. If you show up, if you come to training camp, if you play a preseason game, you get a little more, a little more, a little more, and then we start getting into sack totals, and you can get considerably more. I was ecstatic he got reinstated. Shannon, I thought it was actually a little bit of a long shot that the commissioner would say, okay, I'll rubber stamp you back into the league, because his rap sheet in this league is one of the ugliest in the history of this league. Multiple violations of substance abuse and personal conduct. I'm not even remotely trying to defend any of that. I'm just here to say, I believe in our man, Jay Glazer. Jay Glazer's reputation is not one to throw something against the wall and hope it sticks. He's not prone to exaggeration or overstatement in his reporting. I'm going to take it to the bank when he writes on The Athletic that this is a different person. This man has turned his life around, and he is going to 12-step sort of meetings in relation to the organization that Jay helps run, which is called Merging Vets and Players. He's spoken consistently to the veteran group about his recovery, about his newfound sobriety. And Shannon, obviously, he's been in Dallas now for about a month, living, working out. If he gets caught up like so many Cowboys in the past have in the Dallas nightlife and he falls off the wagon, then obviously you're way right. So that I'm holding my breath on. But Jay Glazer says he has turned his life around, and I'm going to buy it and believe it. And Jay Glazer, as you point out, says he has really turned his physique around because he came to Jay at the gym that he runs called Unbreakable Performance at around 260 pounds, and they put 25 pounds of muscle on him, according to Jay, and I'm going to buy it, and that he's now 287 with a V, that he is rocked up, that they have a contraption called the Raptor, resistance bands pulling from the wall, and that a lot of NFL studs have exercised on this machine, have worked out on it, and that Aldon Smith pulled it off the wall. And Jay just said, I've never seen anything like this before. He's a beast. He's a monster. That he is breaking the sort of perceptions that Jay had of what an athlete can be as a big man athlete, that he's got it all in ways Jay has never seen. And Jay's had so many athletes come through Unbreakable Performance. So Shannon, okay, I'm going to buy that. Does that translate into playing football? No. Has he played at a high? Obviously, absolutely, he's played at a high level 8 years ago, as you point out, and he hasn't played at all for 5. But the sense that I'm getting is that he will be a contributor. I'm not going to be shocked if he becomes a star again. But to your point, if you give me a little bit of Aldon Smith and a little bit of Randy Gregory and a little bit of that kid that I think they stole in the 5th round, Bradley Anae from Utah, who's got edge to him, high motor edge. If you can get a little bit from him as a rookie coming off that other edge from DeMarcus Lawrence, now you're talking, that we're back in business. But I just have a feeling Aldon Smith, who's got a whole lot of edge in him, that if that edge is now focused, if it's channeled in the right direction instead of the wrong direction off the field, I think you could have the story of the year, the comeback story of the year in Aldon Smith. Obviously, we're all rooting for him, and he's got to stay sober to start with, but I think this could be a home run for the Dallas Cowboys.
Skip, it's just, I mean, Skip, think about the amount of time that 5 years is. We've never seen an athlete take that kind of time off and come back and be anything close to what he was. Skip, even Muhammad Ali took it from the ages of 28 to 25. He came back to recapture, but Skip, he wasn't what he was. He was not. Now, Michael Jordan took that time off, Skip, but we chalked that up to him age. I mean, Michael was 37, 38, 39, or maybe 38, 39, 40. So obviously, Skip, we know age. Now, he does have age on his side. He's about to be, I think we're going to be 31 at some point in time in the upcoming season, Skip. So that's a difference. But even Michael Phelps, when he took time off, he says, I'm retiring. He took 2 years off, Skip, and he came right back. But he wasn't the swimmer. Yes, he won, but he wasn't the dominant swimmer that he was when he left. So imagine if Michael Phelps took off 5 years. As great as he is, Skip, he's not coming back close to what he was. He took off 2 years. Skip, it's just hard for me to believe. And like you said, Skip, I'm rooting for the guy because I would love to see this end as a great comeback story, a great fairy tale ending. A guy goes to the bottom, finds his way back, comes back, comeback player of the year, helps contribute to a winning team. That would be a great story, Skip. But man, 5 years at professional sports, Skip. Skip, I'm not saying, Skip, you can you can have a regular 9 to 5, do that for an extended period of time, take time off and pick that back up. But professional sports and someone doing a 9 to 5 and taking 5 years off, that's entirely different. You know that, I know that. You've been around the game. Imagine, Skip, you take 5 years off from running and then go back out there and try to run the same times that you were running when you were running 5 years ago. You know that's not going to happen. Things hurt. Sometimes the mind is willing, but just the body isn't able. But I hope he can recapture some of what he had and can contribute to the Dallas Cowboys. Because like you, Skip, I believe this could be a great story. But I'm just very, very skeptical that someone can take this amount of time off and come back and be and contribute in a major way.
And again, my bottom line is, knowing Jay Glazer the way I know him and have observed him for many years, the way he goes about his business, I do not think he would have stuck his neck out so far for Aldon Smith if he didn't 1,000% believe in his ability to come back. So I'm with Jay, and I'm obviously with Aldon, and I got a good feeling.
Well, Skip, I like the fact that Jay is willing to reach out and his foundation is doing an unbelievable thing. And so I like, because sometimes, Skip, it's easy to walk past someone that's down. You don't really know what the guy's story is, but clearly Jay was willing to take a chance, hear this guy's story, and believe that he deserves an opportunity. And he helped him, he trained him, and hopefully he got him back in the condition that he needs, and he can go contribute to the Dallas Cowboys. So that would be a great story, not only for Jay, but especially for Aldon Smith.
Can't say enough about Jay Glazer and his foundation, what he has done. And the videos he's posted of Aldon Smith working out, oh my goodness. I don't want to mess with him. No mercy. Paul Pierce said his all-time top 5 would consist of Jordan, Kobe, Kareem, Magic, and Bill Russell. Not only was LeBron left off the list, Pierce later tweeted Shaq would be 6 and Duncan would be 7. He said his reasoning was that all of those players were part of a dynasty and that LeBron had never built a championship team from scratch. Shannon, what do you read into this?
Skip, look, I think the thing is Paul Pierce is entitled to his opinion, although I don't agree with it. The reason why I don't agree with it, Skip, is his rationale, because he didn't build a dynasty. Skip, does he realize that LeBron isn't the general manager? Do we realize we would not even be mentioning Paul Pierce had Danny Ainge not pulled off the trade for Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen? Does he realize that, Skip? Like some players go to teams that, for lack of a better word, and I hate to use this word, that the front office is incompetent. Everybody can't be Jerry West. Everybody doesn't have the augment, no matter what you think of him, Skip, or of a Jerry Krause. And so, or Bob Myers. So everybody can't put together a team. And you're talking about, well, he hopped around, he went and joined D. Wade and Chris Bosh. Skip, does he realize that Robert Parrish and Dennis Johnson and Tiny Archibald were not drafted by the Celtics? Does he realize that a lot of the Lakers, the greats from Kareem and that helped them win titles, were not drafted by the Lakers, that Shaq was not drafted by the Lakers? Does he realize that? So what does he think about Shaq? Shaq went from Orlando to the Lakers to the Heat. Where Kareem with the Bucks for what, 7 years, Skip? If I'm not mistaken, I think it was about 7 years. So Skip, if you want to say LeBron is not a top 5 player, okay, based on this, this, and this. But when you say he didn't build a dynasty because he wasn't fortunate enough to have Red Auerbach that was orchestrating and that was building, or he didn't have a Jerry West or Jerry Krause or R.C. Buford, you use that. That's your argument. You realize that's your argument, Paul Pierce. Paul, you won 3 series in 9 years before KG and Ray Allen got there. Bruh, come on, Skip. He has never been the same since LeBron dropped 45-15 on him. And then he started ring chasing because he got so upset that LeBron busted him up. He went to, Skip, remember, he went to Brooklyn. He and KG went to Brooklyn and teamed up with Joe Johnson and Darren Williams to try to get back. And LeBron busted him up again. And then he went to the Wizards. And then he went to the Clippers. Paul, bruh, you looking bad. I mean, you look real angry, Paul. I'm just saying how it looks from the outside. If you want to say LeBron isn't a top 5 pick, say based on what he's not been able to accomplish. But to say because he didn't build a dynasty? Nah, bruh, that look real petty on your side, bruh.
By the way, the exact quote was, what has LeBron done to build up any organization from the ground floor? The way Jordan came into Chicago, 84, and just took a really bad basketball franchise and lifted it up to those heights. Okay.
Skip,
now,
they built, but Jerry Krause had something to do with that.
Well, he didn't draft Michael, but after that, he made some nice little moves that helped. Okay, let's forget about that. Let's talk about Paul Pierce. What's the psychology here? Let's psychoanalyze. What's the motivation? What's the driving force here? Is it because of the rivalry? LeBron and Paul went at it. They guarded each other often. And remember, the first 2 times they played in 2008 and 2010, Paul got the best of LeBron. So it wasn't like it was a mismatch all the way. It wasn't like Paul got shamed in this rivalry because he didn't get shamed early on. You're right, he got busted up later, but early he did more of the busting than LeBron did. So I'm going deeper here because just for the record, Paul is ranking LeBron right about where I have him ranked all time. So I don't have an enormous problem with where he ranked him, but I do have a problem with the why of it because I don't think Paul Pierce is speaking his heart on this. There's something deeper going on, and this is my take. You said everybody has a right to their opinion. Well, I'm going to express mine. 2 cents worth of opinion from a distance. I believe that Paul Pierce saw LeBron at his all-time greatest, and he saw LeBron at his worst, sometimes in the very same game. And I believe that seeing LeBron at his worst is sticking in Paul Pierce's psyche right now, that he can't come to grips with, he can't make peace with what he saw from LeBron at his lowest moments and justify putting him in the top 10 above Kobe and Kareem and Magic and Bill Russell. Okay, so let's look back. Remember, in 2008, in the conference semifinals, they met for the first time, and it went 7 games, but the 7th game was in Boston. And it wasn't like LeBron was a baby still because he'd already had the 48-point explosion against Detroit that got him to the finals against my Spurs, and he got swept.
Right.
So LeBron is coming off getting swept in the finals. Here we go again into the next playoff run, conference semis, Game 7 at Boston. LeBron scored 45 in that game. Paul scored 41 in that game. It was one of the all-time Game 7 postseason shootouts. But here's what happened, and you're going to say I'm nitpicking, but this is way bigger than a nit. I dare anybody to watch the tape of what happened in the last 141 of that game, minute and 41 seconds, or just go call up and look at the play-by-play. LeBron went 0 for 3 from the field in the last 141. He also missed, he went 1 for 2 from the free throw line, but the one miss at the free throw line came with 16.5 seconds left, and it was crucial. So LeBron missed a big three at 1:41. He missed another big three with 2 with 25 seconds left, a little 5-foot sort of turnaround jumper. And then with 5 seconds left, he missed another three that would have made it a tight game. This is a seesaw back and forth game. So Paul saw LeBron go off and score 45 and then shrink at the end of the game. And then obviously in 2010, which was the last time around in Cleveland, I'm sorry, but this is just the facts. This is what happened. It's the God's truth that LeBron went off in Game 3 at Boston. This is in the 2010 playoffs. And I thought that was the best game I ever saw LeBron play. And I know you can talk about that Game 6 and then the Game 7 later when he was with the Heat against Boston that you talked about. But listen, LeBron dominated on that Friday night in Game 3. And they're up 2-1. And then here we went. Game 4, Game 5, Game 6. LeBron shrank and shrank and shrank and completely disappeared to the point that someone from his inner circle told ESPN that LeBron had to be sedated for Games 4, 5, and 6 because he's having an issue in the locker room with a teammate. I'm sorry, I found that a little far-fetched that he was sedated. He played like he was sleepwalking. And Dan Gilbert, his owner, after he left and took his talents to South Beach soon after that, Dan Gilbert accused LeBron of quitting in Games 4, 5, and 6 of that series. And I've never heard of any superstar get accused of quitting like that owner accused LeBron. Okay, but my point is this is sticking in Paul's psyche. He saw this firsthand. He's guarding LeBron as he disappeared.
So why didn't anybody say when Kobe Bryant would not shoot the ball because everybody said he was selfish, why didn't people say Kobe quit?
It's not about Kobe, that game? It's about LeBron against Paul Pierce.
This is about Paul Pierce. You keep saying everything. But here's the thing. All you do is you go back to someone's lowest moment. You never mention anything about Magic Johnson and how in 1984 they called him tragic. You don't say that. It's always LeBron, 2011.
I have said it, but we're talking about where LeBron is ranked.
But my thing is, Skip, is that LeBron, if to let you tell it, to let Paul Pierce tell it, and let others tell it, only LeBron has had moments in the playoff in which he has not been his best. You do know in 2008, 2009, Paul Pierce had Kevin Garnett. If I'm not mistaken, Kevin Garnett was Defensive Player of the Year that year. And he had Ray Allen. What was Paul Pierce doing before he got those two guys? Nobody talks about Kobe shooting air balls.
Not about Paul.
But Skip. But yes, Skip. But my point is that all you do, and Paul Pierce and others, is take LeBron at his lowest and say, see, nobody else has done that. But when I say others have had games like that, you said it's not about them. It's never about them because then it would go against your theory that LeBron James is only the all-time great player that's ever had failures. And you know that's not to be true because you've covered the game longer than I've been watching it.
Okay. These are epic fails. This is 2010, Games 4, 5, and 6. Then he goes to the Heat in 2011. And what happened in Games 4, 5, and 6 of the NBA Finals versus Dallas? Same thing, right on cue. 3 games of disappearance, of melting down, of chosen one becoming frozen one. He froze up the way he did against Boston the year before. But again, Shannon, this isn't just missing one shot. This is 3 games, 4, 5, and 6, and then 3 more in the finals the next year, 4, 5, and 6. And the Game 7 back in 2008 against Boston, it's a big body of failure that Paul knows better than anybody, and he's thinking in his head, I believe, I can't put that guy in the top 5.
Skip, look, my point is that you say, look at 2010. Skip, just because it happened more recent and other guys' failures happened more in the past, that does not justify it. You give so much more weight to LeBron because, well, he's a Panther, he's a GOAT. But if we're also saying that Magic, we're also saying Kobe. There have been other players that have had series that's been less than. That's my only point.
Okay.
Paul Pierce tried to say because he didn't build a dynasty. Bruh, you didn't build a dynasty. Team Skip, general managers, what LeBron has done says, look, if I feel my general manager are incompetent and they cannot build a team around me, I'm going to go somewhere where they will be willing to build a team around me. And that's what the Miami Heat did. He went to the Lakers. That's what they're willing to do, is build a team. Everybody's not going to have Auerbach. Skip, Red Auerbach thinker, because you know this. They drafted Larry Bird in his junior year. You could do that. And then, guess what? He started adding pieces. He makes the trade for Robert Parrish. Then all of a sudden, he drafts Kevin McHale. So, Skip, things happen. That was competence. You build that team, but then you add DJ. Then you add Tiny Archibald. So, for you to say because he didn't build, he's not supposed to. He's a player. Organization and the general manager should put the pieces. And LeBron says if they can't do it, I'm gone.
I agree. I agree. I don't like that premise from Paul Pierce. I'm talking about playoff failure. You're talking about Magic Johnson, who had one big mental blunder against Boston that got him the nickname through the offseason, Tragic. He came back and avenged that versus the Celtics. He actually ended up winning more than Larry Bird did, so he got revenge. He avenged himself. Kobe had a terrible series, in my view, a terrible finals against Boston, and then he came back and he avenged himself against Boston and beat them, right? So LeBron he righted the wrong.
So LeBron winning three titles after 2011 and 2 MVPs with 3 finals MVPs is not avenging himself. I'm confused.
No,
because you said Kobe. No, that's not what you said. That's not what you said. Okay, you said Kobe avenged himself.
Magic and Kobe came right back the next year in the finals against the same Celtics and got revenge, righted the wrong. Very next year, it worked out for them.
It wasn't.
Right?
Skip, you said, so now you holding them because the Mavericks couldn't make it back, could not get past OKC. Well, you're going to hold that against LeBron because you're saying Kobe and Magic got revenge against the Celtics, the team that beat them. It's not LeBron's fault that the Mavs couldn't get back. That's not his fault. You said you want someone to make you want atonement for the mistake. He did that, and you still hold it against him while you heap praise on the other guys.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. That's it.
All right. Okay, but in the end, so he beat the baby Thunder. I'll give you that. He was the MVP of that. He beat my Spurs, but that was about Ray Allen making the greatest clutch shot I've ever seen to take LeBron off the hook, or he'd be 2-7 in the finals.
I mean, Ray Allen is a teammate. He makes a shot. Steve Kerr, John Paxson are teammates. They make shots. They don't save Jordan's legacy. I'm confused again.
Whenever you say baby Thunder, shots. Skip, that has me laughing. No mercy. Think about this, guys. Dak Prescott has been ranked in the top 4 on 2 separate deep passer rankings, as well as the 3rd best fantasy quarterback for the upcoming season. While there is a lot of statistical hype for Dak, the fact remains that he went 1-6 versus playoff teams last season with 8 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So, Skip, how much should Dak's 1-6 record versus those playoff teams play a role in his negotiations?
Jerry Jones should constantly bring that up. That's a fact, and that's significant. And Shannon Sharpe, you know I love Dak Prescott. You know that I have defended this man probably as much as anybody in the media anywhere in this country has defended Dak Prescott. But I didn't always defend what happened last year. I did not love the way he played, especially down the stretch last year. I actually loved him more in overall performance in 2018, especially after he got Amari at midseason and they just took off. And Dak was the driving force of that one playoff win over Seattle. He was the star of that game, arm and legs. And I thought Dak played well enough against the Rams in the next playoff game out here in LA at the Coliseum to win that game. The defense did not show up and basically got run off the field, as you remember, by C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley. But Dak played very well, and I defended him the next day on Undisputed. I really loved how he played with Amari. I told you Amari had changed Dak's life. And then we get to last August, and out comes once again the NFL.com top 100 as voted on by the players. And the players said no to Dak Prescott. This is last August going into the 2019 season. The players voted Dak no out of the top 100. What? I was outraged over that. You liked it. You applauded it, in part because you were just amused by it, because I'm a Cowboy fan and you knew how much it just tore my heart out. But the point was, here we go into 2019, and all of a sudden, Dak's not playing like Dak. He's not making the play to win the game. And he goes 1-6 against the playoff teams. He played very well in that one game. Remember, it was the Sunday night game, the first one against the Eagles, 37-10 Dallas. Love that. But other than that, I got nothing. And Jerry's got a lot on his side of the table, because you remember what Dak didn't do at New Orleans. You killed him for that game. It's Dak versus Teddy Bridgewater in the Superdome. And the final score was 12-10 Bridgewater. 10. Dak managed 10 points in that game. His QBR was actually pretty good at 70. It was very good at 77. He just missed Randall Cobb in the back of the end zone, threw it a little too far out front of him. He missed too many the plays in that game to win that game. And then against Aaron Rodgers, they fall behind 31-3. And then here came Dak later in the game. From like the 3:30 mark of the third quarter through the end of the game, he threw for 254 yards. And Shannon Sharpe came in the next morning, empty calories. Okay, he almost got them back in the game, except for Brett the Fret Maher missed another late field goal that could have at least forced an onside kick. But again, okay, I'll give you some empty calories. At least he kept fighting. He will fight you. He will compete. Then the Vikings game, I thought Dak played very well. He had a QBR of 85 in that game, and they took the ball out of his hands, as you remember, on 2nd and 2 at the 11 late in the game, when I thought he was driving them for the touchdown to win it. And it was Zeke, and more Zeke at the end of the game, and they lost. But then at New England, it's 13-9 Tom Brady. It is a miserable day, but Dak was pretty miserable. He lost Amari because Amari quit, went over and pouted on the sideline because he just couldn't get open against Stephon Gilmore, and he didn't catch a ball in that game. So maybe I got to give Dak a little bit of a pass, but Dak wasn't very good. Then against Buffalo on Thanksgiving, he was terrible. Threw 2 awful picks. It was a mismatch. It was a rout. And then at Philly, Dak had a banged-up shoulder, but Shannon Sharpe always teaches me, if you step on the field, even though you didn't practice all week, you play, and I got to grade you as you played the game. And he wasn't very good, and he missed Tavon Austin deep on a play that could have maybe set up a tie in that game. So there it is, 1-6. Well, I can't sell that. I can't say that's worthy of $40 million a year for 4 years and then $48 million in the 5th year. It just wasn't good enough. It wasn't like 2018 to me, Shannon. And in the end, these weird accolades that keep coming Dak's way, he's all the way up to 3rd in some houses in MVP. And RotoWorld says he's projected as the 3rd best fantasy quarterback. And Next Gen Stats say he was actually the best deep ball thrower in football last year. I don't remember that. I didn't really see or feel that. I don't think Jerry Jones is seeing or feeling any of that. And I do believe he's looking at the cold, hard facts. We went 8-8. He was 1-6 against playoff teams. And in the end, he didn't make the Pro Bowl, and we didn't make the playoffs. So I'd say all that is more advantage Jerry, and there's a very fair offer on the table that Dak should compromise and accept. Sign it, Dak.
Skip, look, this is how we understand how negotiating works, is that you use whatever is in your best interest to your advantage, and you put all the bad stuff on the table to use it to the player's disadvantage. We understand that's what's playing out right now. Also, I think this is one of the main reasons that Jerry Jones is not totally convinced that Dak is the long-term that can take them to where they ultimately want to be. That's get to and win the Super Bowl. But my only problem with your entire argument, where was this argument during the season? When I was saying these were empty calories, when I said he was coming up small, when I was giving him D's and F, you gave him B's and A's. That's what you did. My quarterback is a warrior. You talked about how great he performed the first 3 games of the season. I was telling you he was playing nobody, but that's not what you said. Only now when it's time to Dak to get his money is that you're bringing all this. He played small against New England. You gave him a B. He played small against Philly. You gave him a B. He played small in some of these other games. You gave him an A. You talk about how he was a warrior. He talked about how he brought his team back. You didn't mention any of the things that you're mentioning right now. You never mentioned that at the time that it was happening. It's only now that Dak's about to get this money, you want to use everything you possibly can. He came up small against Teddy Bridgewater. You got to beat Teddy Bridgewater. Carson limping to him. Wentz, you got to beat limping to him. Kirk Cousins, you owned Kirk Cousins when he was in Washington. That's not what you said at the time. At the time, you talk about what a warrior he was and how outstanding of a performance he was giving. Now, man, you ain't said nothing good about Dak in the last month.
I've said a lot good about him. And by the way, we'd have to look this up and verify. I remember giving Dak C's for New England and Philly late in the year, but I could be wrong. Again, I know you gave him consistent F's, and now you want him to be by far the highest paid player in the game of football. So I can't really justify or reconcile yours either.
Because here's the thing, Skip, that I understand that when you play the quarterback position, it's the premium position. And a lot of guys, Skip, you don't get paid on worth or how good you perform. Dak's a free agent. Skip, if you really want to know the value of something, put it for sale. See, I might think a house is worth $20 million. Man, this house is worth $20 million. Let me stick that for sale sign in the dirt. Somebody might come and say, give me 25. Somebody might give me 30. But the bids might only reach to 10 million. Well, that's what the house is worth. What is someone willing to pay? You wanted to find out Dak's worth, let him become a free agent. And then let other teams bid on him. And then you can say, well, I'm going to let somebody else pay him $35, $40 million. I can't pay that. Or he might not have got an offer, and you might could have got him for $15 million. But you weren't willing to roll the dice. You want to put the tag on him, you hold him, and then say, well, nobody else would have paid him that. How do you know someone else wouldn't have paid him $35, $40 million? You didn't afford him that opportunity to see. So it's easy to say what Dak is worth when you hold him, when you got all the cards in your favor. But you should have let Dak test the market, and then you could have found out what his true value was. But I want to know, Skip, when you was passing out all these passing grades, when you was talking about your quarterback's QBR, he had a better QBR than old Cousins. He had a better QBR than old bounce it to him Wentz. He had a better QBR than Aaron Rodgers. Not one time did you mention anything. I was telling you, Skip, what's he doing against teams with winning record? What's he doing with teams that could possibly be in the playoffs? Don't worry about that. It's Jason Garrett's fault. What about so Dak not playing well? That's Jason Garrett. You blame Jason Garrett for everything else, but now it's time for Dak to get payday. You ain't mentioned Jason Garrett. It's all Dak's fault now. Dak, you see this. Dak, you watching this? I want you to know your biggest fan, really not your biggest fan. It's your boy Sharpe that's in your corner the whole while. You just didn't know it.
Yeah. Shay, give him an F Sharpe, right? By the way, just point of order here. If Shannon Sharpe walked outside right now and stuck a for sale sign in the front yard of his palatial estate up in Bel Air, he might get $40 million because it'd be the equivalent of people who would want to buy the house back in the day that Frank Sinatra lived in. It'd be like buying Frank Sinatra's house up in Bel Air, right? Yeah, that would be Shay Sharpe's house. Look, Dak, I love you, man. You're just asking for unrealistic money. I can't defend that. That's the point. Out of bounds, outrageous money thanks to your new agent, Todd France. I've reported numerous times that many who are watching this very closely think that your agent is overstepping his bounds. He's overplaying his hand. You deserve the money that's on the table because it would make you, if you sign the dotted line right now, you would be the highest paid player in pro football. But obviously, in the next 3 years, that would get rendered not obsolete, but it would go down the list a little bit as Mahomes and Deshaun sign. But you're still going to hang on to the third spot for a long time. You're still being very fairly paid. I'm all about fair. I can't defend what Dak did last year because I've said 1,000 times he didn't make enough throws to turn 8-8 into 10-6 and a division championship. It's as simple as that. I can't make that up, and I said that from game to game when he disappointed me. I still believe in him. I believe in this team. I believe in his weapons. It's all right there for him. If he would just compromise a little, maybe they could get it to 37 or 38 million a year. That's still extraordinary, top of the list money right here, right now. That's still beyond Goff and beyond Carson Wentz. I still believe Dak is better than Wentz and better than Goff. That's done. That's over. That's settled. But do I think he's better than Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun right here, right now? I don't. Do I think he's top 10? I've got him ranked 10th in the league. That's still very good. But has he proven to be a top 5 quarterback the way he's projected? He has not. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to the public about it. As much as I love Dak, I have been objective about Dak. The man who's not objective is Shannon Sharpe, who hates the Dallas Cowboys and wants them to swim in salary cap hell with the Sharks. That's what he wants to have happen.
It's amazing that you couldn't defend Dak now, but you could defend him back then. Back then, he wasn't about to get the contract. Now that he is, he's not that good. Dak, you see what's going on right here, Dak. Todd France, holla at your boy. Stand pat. We together.
Yeah,
we in this together.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never know what side Shannon's on.
No mercy.
A list of the top 25 running backs of all time was posted on social media yesterday and nearly made Twitter explode. The great Barry Sanders came in at 1. Following Barry was Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, Adrian Peterson, and Frank Gore to round out the top 5. So, Shannon, I would love to know your top 5 in terms of all time running backs.
Well, I got Barry at 1. I got Walter Payton. I got Jim Brown, Emmitt. And Skip, I went back and forth with this one. And the guy that I left off not because of he wasn't great. It's because of what transpired in the early 90s. And I just could not in good conscience put him on my list. But he was unbelievable. And if you're my age, if you're between the ages, I'm 50, I'll be 52 in a month, Skip. If you're between 52 and 60, your favorite running back, there's no question, Skip, was O.J. Simpson. And people don't realize how good he was because he retired, I think, in 79, Skip, and that was 40 plus years ago. And then what transpired was 15 years after, 14, 15 years after that, and then got in some trouble again. But Skip, people don't realize how good OJ was. For a 5-year stretch, Skip, he averaged 1,500 rush yards, won the MVP, and was all pro every year. I went with ED because I was very fortunate, Skip, to see 3 of these guys play. You know, I'm old enough I was in the league. Me and Emmitt came in the league together. Barry came in the year before us. ED was still in the league when I was in the league. So I saw 3 of these guys play. So my list is Barry, Walter Payton, Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith, and ED. Barry was special.
No. Not special. I got a big problem with Barry Sanders as your number 1 because Barry Sanders is not in my top 5. Shannon, Barry Sanders had to be taken out on goal line or short yardage plays because he could not run between the tackles. Barry Sanders was often known for plays that went nowhere fast. He often got many of his yards going the wrong way, as in wrong way Sanders, because he would go here and there and here and there and run circles around defenders way deep in the backfield and wind up with a -1 yard gain. And if you look at his playoff run, he did play 6 playoff games. They only won 1 of them, but he averaged in the postseason 64 rush yards a game. That's not number 1 all-time running back to me. And in one of those playoff games against Brett Favre and the Packers at Lambeau, he carried the ball 13 times in that game for a grand total of -1 yards in a playoff game. 13 rushes for -1 yards because he's going nowhere fast. He's going here, there, he's going here, there. He's wrong way Sanders. He was hard to get on the ground, spectacular behind the line of scrimmage, but he didn't go forward enough for me. And if you have to get pulled out on short yardage and goal line because you need a bigger, stronger back end, you're disqualified from being the first overall choice on Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe's list. I cannot abide that. If you want to respond, please do.
Well, Skip, I think the thing is when you average 1,527 rush yards for 10 years and you said he lost a lot of yards, but he gained a lot of yards. Skip, if you look at it, you look at his offensive lineman, there's nobody, his best offensive lineman, he had Glover with the center and Lomas Brown, but can you imagine if you put Barry behind that Cowboys offensive line, how many rush yards do you think he would have had, Skip? If you put him behind ED's offensive line, when they ran the football, how many yards do you think he would have? Jim Brown had offensive linemen that's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He didn't have that. OJ have offensive linemen that's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This guy does not have a lineman that's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He did that. And a lot of these guys, the quarterback, and the reason why you look at Walter, because Walter was all they had, Skip. Their quarterback was terrible, and really until they got Jim McMahon. Jim McMahon, it wasn't like he was, Vince Evans and Bob Avellini. Come on, Skip. So that's
totally agree.
That's who I'm riding with. I'm riding with them.
All right. Now,
you
back
got
to my list. I have your number 5 at number 1. And it's not because Eric Dickerson is a friend of mine or a friend of ours, a contributor on Undisputed. I've said this for years. Eric Dickerson was the rarest combination of power and speed I have ever seen. At 6'3", 220, he timed 4.28 in the 40. And he's talked about it on Undisputed. We're talking about 4.2-ish speed. I saw it firsthand. I covered him at SMU because I was the columnist of the Dallas Morning News. Ron Meyer called me at home that August that he was a true freshman out of Sealy, Texas. How SMU signed him, I still don't know. That's a documentary for another day. But he was at SMU with Craig James, who was really good. And one day, Ron Meyer called me at home and said, "Are you doing anything this afternoon? Because we're having an afternoon practice. Please come watch this kid from Sealy. He is a man among boys. My seniors cannot tackle him." It was Eric Dickerson, who then went on to that one year where he shattered the record of O.J. Simpson that you talked about with 2,105 yards. And went on to, and then in that playoff game, I was right there in the front row of the press box that day in Anaheim, California, when Eric Dickerson ran over my Cowboys, around my Cowboys, through my Cowboys, right down their throats for a playoff record that still stands 248 yards. He led this league in rushing 4 times, has the all-time record, and I'm sorry, that's just true greatness to me. Now, quickly to OJ. I'm with you. I have mixed emotions because we know about the off-field. I don't even want to discuss it or touch it because it's just evil and it's hard for me to process. But if you can remove yourself from that and stay on the field, I am so with you that we can't disqualify the on the field with the off the field. He did it. He was the first to go over 2,000 yards, and he did it in 14 games. He averaged that year in 1973, he averaged 143 yards a game. That still stands as the record for a per game average for any single season. OJ, and for my eye and for my entertainment value, Shannon, I'm with you. I'm in that era that you're talking about. The most exciting, electrifying back I ever saw, dating to his USC days, where remember what he did to UCLA late in that game? They won 21-20 when OJ was in his first year at USC, went to San Francisco City College for a couple of years, but he got loose for 64 yards. The juice was loose and beat UCLA. And then he was must-see TV behind what they call the electric company, Reggie McKenzie, in that offensive line. I'm still going to put him second on my list. Yep. And we didn't talk about the great Jim Brown. I'm sorry. I'm old enough to have actually gotten to watch him on television. Jim Brown dominated pro football. He played 9 years, and he led the league in rushing 8 times in the 1964 NFL championship game against Baltimore and Don Shula. He ran for 114 against a defense that would just stack to stop him, and they won 27-0. The Browns did. He was, you want to talk about man among boys? It was Jim Brown. So I got him third. I'm going to give Emmett fourth just on longevity and those many years of legacy. And Walter Payton, as you pointed out, got so many yards for bad teams. He was an MVP for a bad team. And I don't know how he did it. He's still all-time second. Those are the hardest yards anybody ever gained in pro football. And to still be second all-time, that is also true greatness. So that's my top 5, but I don't have Barry in my top 5.
Skip, if you look, people don't remember, but ED went for over 1,800 yards as a rookie. And then he followed his rookie season up because the 2105 came in his second year. Skip, but like you said, but Jim Brown, he won the MVP. If I'm not mistaken, I think he won the MVP in his rookie season. He won 3. What he did, nobody's going to win 8 rushing titles again, Skip. That's not going to happen. And that was the only reason I kept OJ out, Skip, is because I was like, man, people don't want to hear this guy's name. Okay. They just wish he could go away. But I'm old enough old enough to remember. He was, Skip, actually, he was the first Eric Dickerson. He was the first big back that could fly. O.J. Simpson could fly. He was like a 9'1", 9'2", 100-yard dash guy. So he could flat out run.
I think he ran 9'4". Yeah, at USC he ran a 9'4" 100-yard dash, which is like absurd speed. Yes, I got it.
Well, and he was a tall. O.J. was like 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", and could run. But ED, his running style. So Skip, the only one that you and I differ on is Barry Sanders.
That's it.
That's really that's the only one that you and I differ on. But these guys, the guys that they got on that list, I don't know, somebody must have been drinking.
No mercy.
According to Pro Football Focus, Tom Brady's Bucs have the #1 ranked receiving corps in the NFL. Right behind it, too, are the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs, and the Cowboys snagged the 3rd overall spot. So, Shannon, any problem with these rankings?
Yeah, the Chiefs should be #1. I'll take the Chiefs over any receiving corps in all of football, especially with the guy that they have pulling the trigger, playing quarterback. But you give me Mecole Hardman, you give me Tyreek Hill, you give me Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce. That's the best group in all of football. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in football right now, Skip. It goes between he and George Kittle. But right now, Travis Kelce, his ability in the passing game, Skip, is second to none. He's done something that no other tight end has done in the 100-year history of the NFL. And that's have 4 straight seasons in which he's caught 4,000 yards. Nobody has ever done that. Not Gronk, not Shannon Sharpe, not Tony Gonzalez, not Mackey, not Dicker, not Winslow, not Newsom. None of them. And this kid is not slowing down. So he's probably going to add on that. So when it's all said and done, he's probably going to have the lion's share of the numbers. Now, I don't know if he's going to get, because he doesn't produce the touchdowns like Gronk, Gonzalez, and Antonio Gates does. But as far as yards and catches, Skip, he can do that as well as any of them. And we know what Hardman and we know what Tyreek Hill does. Okay, Skip, my thing, the problem that I have with this is that you list Tampa, okay, I get it. The 2 outside guys are unbelievable. Yeah, they went to the Pro Bowl last year. But the tight ends, yeah, they have potential. Potential is just another way of saying you haven't done jack yet. That's what potential is. And O.J. Howard, we know he has potential. We saw what he did in 2 national championship games, Skip, against Clemson. Cameron Brake, yeah, he's put up some good numbers. Gronk has been away from the game. We know what Gronk was. Can he be something comparable to that, Skip, after taking a year off? We'll see. The Cowboys, Skip, and again, Skip, this kid CeeDee Lamb, this kid better be Randy Moss. Because everything I keep hearing, the number one offense, they got the potential to be the number one offense. And it's because of CeeDee Lamb. They got a chance, Dak got a chance to be the MVP, it's because of CeeDee Lamb. They got the third best receiving core, it's because of CeeDee Lamb. If this kid is not Randy Moss in his rookie season, it's a flop. Because I've never seen Julio, AJ Green didn't get this kind of hype coming out. Randy Moss is the only receiver that had this kind of buzz that CeeDee Lamb is displaying right now, and I'm anxious to see this kid play. But yes, I got a problem with the Bucs being number one and Cowboys being 3.
Timeout. I first guessed CeeDee Lamb. I started telling you in September, you'd say, Jerry Jeudy's the best receiver in football. No, in college football. No, I'd say CeeDee Lamb. And look what happened. My team got CeeDee Lamb, and now the world is saying, uh-oh, the Cowboys are loaded because of CeeDee Lamb. Nobody called him Randy Moss. I think you're talking about Randy Moss' impact as a rookie. But Pro Football Focus is saying now you have 3 receivers, and obviously Amari Cooper and Gallup, that can mix and match. You can play them all over the place. They're interchangeable parts where you can play them in the slot, you can play them outside, you can send them in motion. It's going to be a 3-headed wide receiver monster. No great tight end. Blake Jarwin's pretty good as a pass catcher, probably a little better than Jason Witten as far as running down the field and getting open. But those 3 wide receivers as a trio, to me, will become the best trio of wide receivers in pro football. Now, back to Tampa Bay. Shannon, you're in so much trouble because not only did ESPN's Bill Barnwell rank Tampa as having the best offseason of any NFL team, but now Pro Football Focus is saying the Bucs have the best receiving core in pro football. And the reason being, they rank Chris Godwin, a Pro Bowl receiver from last year, number 1 in pro football. And all their metrics, their productivity stats say Chris Godwin was the best receiver in football last year. They also ranked Mike Evans tied for 6th. Well, I'm just telling you what they did. Yeah, I do. I believe in their metrics. So if you've got a number 1 receiver, number 1 overall, and a guy tied for 6th, and those are your 2 outside guys, and then I thought you just dismissed Rob Gronkowski. He's a cinch first ballot Hall of Famer who took a year off to refresh and revitalize and healthy up. Nobody has had better rapport with Tom Brady than Rob Gronkowski has. He's only 31 years of age. He wanted to get out from under the tyrant structure of Bill Belichick. He's ready to have some fun under Bruce Arians. You better look out there because you've added him to an O.J. Howard who is 6 feet 5 inches tall and ran 4.5 at the combine and is underutilized so far. Brady will fix that. And I didn't know this, but Pro Football Focus also ranked Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota, whom the Bucs stole in the 5th round of this past draft. They ranked him over the last 2 years as their best receiver in college football in productivity. Again, he did not flash for me. I noticed him when I watched Minnesota, but again, he was a contested catch warrior, as they said on NFL.com. He did not run fast. He didn't have great quickness. He just gets open and beats you to the jump ball. Well, they got him in the 5th round, so Pro Football Focus is saying that's the cherry on top of everything that I just talked about. And I've also thrown in little Scotty Miller, who they drafted out of Bowling Green last year in the slot. He had 1 big game at New Orleans, and I think Tom's going to turn him into an Edelman/Amendola. Not quite as big or physical as those 2, but Jets, supreme short area quickness. So again, if I put all that together, including Tyler Johnson, the rookie, and I didn't mention Cameron Brate, the other quality tight end. It's just too much firepower. Keyshawn Vaughn out of Vanderbilt that they stole in the third round will be catching balls out of the backfield. It's more than Mahomes will have. And I respect what Mahomes has, but it's not this, Shannon. You are in big trouble next year.
Skip, look, I like the Falcons in front of the Cowboys. Remember, Skip, the Falcons were number 2 last year. Now, they did lose Austin Hooper, but they traded for Hayden Hurst. And I think Hayden Hurst, because he wanted to get out of the shadow, he knew he wasn't going to be Mark Andrews. I think his name Mark Andrews from Oklahoma. He wasn't going to get an opportunity to get the kind of reps that he needs to showcase his ability. So I like Calvin Ridley. I like Julio Jones. Anytime Julio Jones is on the list and you got to do a duo, they should be top 10 because Julio by himself is going to, like you say Michael Jordan, drag other guys up. Julio can drag the other receiver up, but Calvin Ridley is a great route runner. Skip, I think they have the Eagles too low. Remember, Skip, the Eagles were number 1 last year, and all their receivers got hurt. So they're going to bring Alshon back. They're going to bring D-Jack back. They got Jalen Reagor in the first round. Zach Ertz is as good as pass-catching tight end. We know the rapport that he has with Carson Wentz. So, Skip, I think they are a little low on this list. But, man, Skip, you know your guy better have Randy Moss-type rookie impact. I'm not saying he's going to be Randy Moss, but I'm saying the way he's being hyped, he needs to have that kind of impact to justify all this praise and hyperbole that you and others have been bestowing upon him.
Shannon, I first guessed it, and I second my own emotion. He's going to change life in Dallas. He will live up to the hype. But the important takeaway here is that you bet me 5 cases of Diet Mountain Dew that Bill Belichick's Patriots would have a better record next year than Tom Brady's Buccaneers. You are in so much trouble because Tampa did everything right in the offseason. Tampa even retained, this is under the radar, but Shaq Barrett is still with Tampa. He led the league in sacks last year. They kept Sue. They kept JPP. They kept 3 guys who, when they were on the field last year together, the trio, that they pressured the quarterback 34% of the time. If they'd all been on for the whole year, that would have made them the second best pressure threesome in pro football. They're still there, Shannon. The defense is going to be improved under Todd Bowles. This is going to be a force to be reckoned with in Tampa, where they were 7-9 last year, and they have been pitiful since 2002.
Skip, I like the Shaq Barrett, but the thing was he couldn't get an opportunity because you had Vaughn and you had D. Ware. And then when they made the trade for Chubb, Skip, he just couldn't get on the field. He always possessed that ability because he made plays. But, you know, they got Chubb, they got him in the 5th pick in the draft. You have Von Miller paying him a ton of money. So he's getting an opportunity to show you what he can do. I've always liked Shaq Barrett. That's why they tried to hold on to him throughout the trade when people wanted to trade for him. But their defense should be better. And that's what it's going to come down to, Skip. You can score all you want to. The reason why Kansas City won the Super Bowl is that their defense was exponentially better than what they were the previous year. You know that.
Well, allow me to end this discussion by taking one last step here.
Ain't nothing in there.
Please.
That ain't nothing but backwash.
On that note,
ain't nothing in there. That's backwash.
we can all have a little sip. All right.
No mercy.
Sunday on Fox, the NASCAR season continues with the Coca-Cola 600 live from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Catch all the action beginning at 6 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. It has been so nice to have NASCAR back and racing. CBS Sports ranked their top 100 NFL players, and 10 quarterbacks made the list, but noticeably missing was Carson Wentz. Shannon, I'm sure you got a big problem with this. Fire away. Floor is yours.
This is crazy to me to think that Carson Wentz led his team to a division title, and then to get them a home playoff game, goes to the playoffs. And he's not one of the 100 best players in all of football. Skip, Carson Wentz did something this year that no other quarterback had ever done in the history of the game. He's the first quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards in a season, and in that same season have zero wide receivers to have at least 500 receiving yards. Let that sink in for just a second. You throw for 4,000 yards, and not one of your wide receivers have at least 500 yards. Now, he did this with D-Jack being out basically all the entire season. Alshon missing half the season. He's throwing to basically guys that started the season on the practice squad. He loses Lane Johnson for the last month of the season. He loses his starting left tackle for 3 games during the season. And he still did what he did. So if I were to ask Dak Prescott, say, Dak, I'm going to take away Amari for the entire season, and I'm going to take away Michael Gallup for half the season, and you're going to lose Lyle Collins for 4 games, and you're going to lose Tyron Smith for 3 games. Hell, he couldn't get them to the playoffs, and he had all them guys. But I got something very interesting for you. But this is what Dak gonna take to Jerry Jones. He said, Jerry, I don't know if you read this, but they said I'm 46. Deshaun Watson, 62. Matt Ryan, 70. Did you see the money that they gave Matt Ryan to sign? Did you see how much he's making? Did you see what Deshaun Watson gonna be asking for? So, hey, I'm sorry that Carson Wentz is out on that list, but old Dakota Prescott looking real pretty right now, Skip. You think you about to really dump on or walk into him, but old Dak Prescott got this same list and got it right there in front of Jerry. Hey, Jerry, I'm 46. Those other guys, 62 and 70. And one guy didn't even make the list.
Once again, Shannon Sharpe is attempting to change the subject because he knows how much trouble he's in this debate, which he's virtually already lost. So let's get this straight, Mr. Sharpe. Your man, Walk It to him Wentz, just moonwalked right out of the top 100. Really? I can see that. Dak was ranked 46, but hey, how about Darren Waller, the tight end for the now Las Vegas Raiders? He ranked 79th. At least he made the top 100. But, walk it to him, or as I call him, bounce it to him, he didn't make it.
Whoa.
So what did we see down the stretch? Go ahead.
Can I ask, Skip, hold on, wait a minute. You just not just a segment ago, when you talking about Dak doesn't deserve his money, you say the players voted and Dak didn't even make it. And you was talking about that was one of the reasons he doesn't deserve to get paid. Now, are you going to sing his praise now that he's 46 and he deserves his money?
This isn't about Dak Prescott. We already did that. It's been put to bed, at least for this day. Now we're talking about Carson Wentz, as in W-I-N-C-E, as in he's always hurt. He got hurt early in his playoff game. He has a long history of injury in this league and at North Dakota State. So what did we see down the stretch from him? Yes, he played inspired football, gutsy football. He was down to his second and third team receivers. He was down to practice squad receivers. But what did he really do in those last 4 games? Well, he beat the 3-13 Redskins. He beat the 4-12 Giants twice. And he beat my 8-8 Dallas Cowboys. That's what he did.
Yes.
And his numbers, he threw 7 touchdowns to no interceptions in those 4 games. But the QBRs weren't great. In fact, one game against the Giants at home, he had a 36, the game that went to overtime. And he had a 40 at the Giants in the last regular season game, which wasn't that great. His total QBR for the 4 games, his average was 53, which is average at best. So I'm not sure that Doug Peterson put a whole lot of stock in those last 4 games, because right on cue against Seattle in a home playoff game, he got hurt again. And he threw completed 1 pass out of 4 in that game for a grand total of 3 yards. So right now, Carson Wentz's playoff statistics for his career, 1 completion for 3 yards. That's frightening. And Doug Peterson is probably more in my corner than in yours. I don't think Doug Peterson has ever bought completely into Carson Wentz, hence Jalen Hurts in the second round. I've said from the start, and I stand by this, I've never bought completely into Carson Wentz's poise, his command, his feel for playing quarterback, his consistent accuracy. When there was no pressure in the last 4 games with very low expectation, he was very good, or at least good. I won't go very, but he was good. Good enough to go 9-7 and barely win the NFC East. And then he got hurt. And then Jalen Hurts got drafted. And I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, Shannon Sharpe. I believe that over time, Jalen Hurts will prove to be the better quarterback than Carson Wentz on leadership and killer will and playmaking. I love Jalen Hurts, and it's going to tear my soul out if he becomes the starting quarterback for your Eagles. But I think that's destined. I believe that Carson Wentz is in trouble. I don't believe he's in the top 100, and I believe he's not even going to be on the field at some point fairly soon for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Skip, you talk about the teams that he beat down the stretch. You said he beat the Washington. You guys played them twice and beat them twice. You said he beat the Giants. You guys played them and beat them twice. But they also played you guys, you bums, and beat you, the Cowboys. And they did something you couldn't do. They beat the Packers. You remember that, Skip? They beat the Packers in Green Bay.
Yeah, Aaron
Rodgers
Rodgers failed to see a wide-open Darius Shepard standing in the end zone saying, they blew the coverage, I'm open. Aaron Rodgers forced it into the middle of the field to Valdez-Scantling, and it got intercepted. Way to go, Aaron.
Skip, I'm not saying that Carson Wentz is a top 10 quarterback, but it's hard for me to believe that a guy that accomplished what he accomplished last year is not one of the 100 best players in all of football. To get a team to win a division when you're doing it with basically none of your best weapons, and to do that when your guy had a full cachet and couldn't get it done.
No mercy.
NFL.com said Tom Brady was the 4th best deep passer in the league based off their next level stats. So Shannon, how much do you fear Brady having a great year in Bruce Arians' bombs away offense?
Well, the question is, he's going to have to change his way of thinking, Skip. He's been very adverse to risk. And in this offense, you're going to have to put the ball in harm's way sometime to reap the benefits of it, of having those big-time receivers that can get down the field and jump up and catch contested football. And so that's the question. Is he going to be able to stand in there, let the defense get a little closer to him? He's going to have to be able to take some licks to the chop. And that's what he's going to have to do, Skip. So he hasn't had to throw the ball down the field basically a lot, and what he's going to be asked to do this year since Randy Moss. And we've seen, contrary to what anybody's saying, Brady has declined some over the last 2 years. So we're going to see how much he still has left in the tank, and can he make Skip Bayless' prediction come true? Win the division and be in the Super Bowl held in his hometown of Tampa.
Shannon Sharpe, you cannot have the 4th best deep passing stats in all of football last year with declining arm strength. It doesn't go together. And by the way, these metrics also point out he had the 3rd worst pass protection, the 3rd worst time to throw last year, yet he still had the 4th best deep passing stats, throwing to a group of receivers who were dead last in separation last year. It's stunning what he pulled off with no help last year. I'm sorry, you are in big trouble.
I feel good. I trust Sean Payton and Drew Brees will win that division. Yeah, they'll get a wild card because they're going to take an extra team this year, and that will probably be Tom Brady.
That is it for Undisputed. Good show, guys. We're back same time tomorrow. Have a good day, guys.